Good evening. Apologies, we're starting a little bit later. We were in an executive session a short while ago. We're now going to start the general meeting, and I'd ask that we please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great, thank you. And then just for the record, we just were in an executive session for one of the allowed reasons, which is to talk about collective bargaining issues. So that's what we were doing in executive session. No votes were taken. All right, we have public comment, and we have a healthy list of folks who've turned up for public comment. So I do want to make sure we get to everyone tonight. We have a 2-minute warning, so or 2-minute limit. So you'll get a sort of warning at about 1.5 minutes, just to kind of let you know. And apologies if we cut you off at 2. Is just we have about 27 people. We want to make sure we get to everyone. So we are going to stick to the 2 minutes for that. So thanks in advance. The first person is Mr. Mali.
Humayun Mali, 53 Chester Street. Good evening, honorable members. We, the citizens, are proud tonight to support the best teachers union in Lawrence. Teachers union are our foundation of our education. We need the best contract for our teachers. We cannot allow our teachers leave our city for neighboring city for better pay. They need a better support. They need educational, instructional support. They need support from the principals. They need the best contract. These teachers have suffered so much during the pandemic. They're teaching our children remotely. They're working so hard. We, the citizens, demand of you the best contract for our teachers and support their union. We cannot stay in Lawrence. The teachers union need our support because future of the Lawrence belong to these teachers. They are the educator. As a result of their hard work, my children, they are in the best universities because of their hard work at having the best educational training by these teachers. We demand of you better support, better contract for our teachers, better instructional support, better safety for our teachers. We want all the teachers remain in our city. We are proud to support our Lawrence teachers and their union. Remember, our promise to save Lawrence, to build a better Lawrence, only depend on you support our teachers and they offer them the best contract. Remember, our paraprofessional also working so hard. From the last meeting, we haven't seen any result. We need to move forward, support Lawrence teachers and union. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Casey Labent. Casey. And then just if you wouldn't mind coming down to the mic. Sorry, Casey, go ahead. But afterwards, just Molly, Sturgeon and Annalise, and then I believe it's Jane Robinson. Just if you could be near the mic so we can hear from you right after as well.
Thank you for the time. My name is Casey Labonte, and I teach at Up Academy Leonard. This year has been incredibly difficult and trying and taxing for us all, and we know that the teaching post-quarantine has been difficult, and it has to come to this point where now a few of us from UAL decided to come up and talk about the issues we're facing. Staff often come to me to the staff room talking about how overworked and overwhelmed they are. The conditions are just brutal. Behaviorally, our students are struggling more than ever, and we've been facing nearly high-level incidents daily. We are short-staffed, as many places are, and we know everyone is struggling across the board. But as was said earlier, we're losing teachers, and they're starting to look for greener pastures when we need to be retaining those teachers here. Also under those issues are coverage. We're seeing teachers who are crying and stressing out because they're afraid to come into school. They're nervous about what they're going to be facing because they do not know the certainty of what their roles will be. Our students need more emotional support to function, and we need greater help in areas such as counseling, behavioral support, and even in relation to our SROs for that genuine safety and a better environment. And lastly, we are looking to take for you to take action to aid these teachers so we can better serve our students. Give us the time back for the hours we lose in planning periods where we're managing a friend who is on their second panic attack in the day. We want to make sure that we're providing more support so our educators do not feel dread or fear about what's coming next. And lastly, we're looking for those funds to be opened up for our schools so they can make the decisions that need to be made for them individually. And we just want to make sure that we're acting so that those on the edge are not falling. Thank you guys for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Molly, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Molly Shergan. I'm an ESL teacher at Up Academy Leonard as well. There's a lot I could say tonight, but given the time, I'm just going to focus on what I'm seeing at my school. Students are unable to focus or sit still throughout the day. They're feeling angry, ignored, and unsupported because school went from 0 to 100 with behavior systems and expectations without adequate emotional support. They have sat in their homes, often alone or with minimal supervision, doing whatever they wanted for almost 2 years. And now they're in school 8 hours a day with lots of expectations of sitting still, focusing, asking to use the bathroom, and being on silent. In the halls of the school, students are wandering, vandalizing bathrooms, and disrupting other classes. And in my classroom, students are unable to focus, are making noises ranging from animal noises to sexual noises. There is fighting and often, or in even physical altercations with staff that often make us feel very unsafe. I'm not able to properly support the classroom that I include in because I'm busy managing these behaviors so that the gen ed teacher can continue. So I'm busy. Is this working?
We'll turn it up if it needs to.
Okay. So I'm busy managing these behaviors so that the gen ed teacher can try to continue on with.
I'm sorry about that. Just give us 1 second here.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, sorry. Thanks for your patience.
So I was just saying that the gen ed teacher can try to continue on as I manage these behaviors, sometimes unsuccessfully. And this isn't to say that this is all the kids' fault, not at all, but to say that they are lacking emotional support, and that's why we're seeing these behaviors. We don't have enough staff, and teachers are covering classes every week, which affects our ability to plan for our students, and this is to the detriment of our mental health and the students. The students are not learning the way that they should be, and it affects the stability in the classrooms as well when teachers are cycling in and out of the classrooms. I know that I and most other teachers are being affected by the gross disrespect that is happening because of this lack of emotional support and the additional work as well. There honestly is so much more that I could say, but I'm going to leave it with this. These problems have solutions if we listen to the voices here tonight and we work together to find them.
Thank you. Annalise?
Hello, my name is Annalise Jaffe, and I am a 6th grade teacher, ELA, also at UAL. What I say tonight may seem repetitive after hearing my colleagues, but that is only highlighting how deep these issues are. Our students are deeply struggling with keeping focused, engaged, and positive. Throughout the day, they are acting out through a variety of sounds, making it nearly impossible to have a discussion or teach a lesson. In addition to this, students are struggling to stay in class. Many are finding ways to run through the halls, banging on classroom windows, and slamming on doors. Some have even gone so far as to punch out our classroom window panes, open up doors to scream curse words into the classroom, and vandalize the bathrooms with disturbing images and words. The challenges do not stop at vandalism and cursing. This year, our school has seen several altercations between students, and even staff members have gotten hit. Our students are in need of help. They are feeling exhausted, ignored, and uncared for. This has led to them acting out and is why they are struggling so much this year. Teachers want to help, and they are doing all that they can, but this leads me to yet another challenge. Teachers are exhausted. We're drained. It's only December, and UAL has already lost almost half a dozen teachers. I know personally of 3 others who are already looking at other jobs. This is partly due to the coverage that we have to do for other classes. This is taking away precious planning time and the opportunity to connect with families of our students. It's also due to the way teachers are being treated by students. Several teachers I know have been called a gross variety of swear words and asked inappropriately sexual questions. I am not saying this to blame the students. I am saying this to highlight how much support our students need at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Jane Robinson? And sorry, Robinson, just before we start, just the next speakers after, if you could just be coming toward the mic, Kim Berry, Sean Steele, Krista Crane, and Johanna Rodriguez, and Hillary Lynch. Great, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jane Robinson, and this is my 24th year working as a school nurse in the Lawrence Public School system. I have always loved my job, always. But our jobs as nurses have greatly changed this year since the onset of COVID and the COVID virus that came to us March of 2020. Instead of spending our days assisting children with their health concerns, we are helping the CIC do their jobs testing children for the COVID virus that is wreaking havoc in the city. The message to us was that CIC would do all the work, and this would not affect our ability to care for the children of Lawrence. But this is not so. We are holding the CIC's hand, leading them through every step of the way. In addition, we nurses are testing students who have COVID symptoms. If a child is positive, We are delivering the message to families that they may have to take time away from their jobs to take care of the students, their child, who needs to stay at home to isolate for 10 days. Some parents have become verbally abusive towards us as we deliver this message, and we try to tell them this is not us, this is a state-mandated policy. As the COVID rates in the schools and the city of Lawrence increase, the burden on nurses gets heavier and heavier every day. Nurses are being pulled from the schools to cover our other schools, as highly qualified nurses are leaving our district to work in other surrounding districts for fewer hours and much higher pay. The exodus is leaving the remaining nurses spread too thin, preventing us from being able to do our jobs. For instance, checking hearing and vision, among other
Ms. Robin, I'm
mandates.
sorry, you're at 2 minutes already. I'll just give you a couple of seconds if you'd like to wrap up the comments.
I do need to say this. We are doing mandated programs, but we can't. That may not seem like a big thing to you, but I had a child that needed adaptive phys ed and occupational therapy services. When I tested her vision, it was 2,200. So what we all see at 200 feet, she needed to be 20 feet away to see it. Once she received glasses, to correct that poor vision, she no longer required the extra services. Now, that may not seem like a big deal to you, but to her, this was huge. She
Ms.
can
Robinson,
now see.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Superintendent Paris, board members. My name is Kimberly Barry, and I rise to you as the proud president of the Lawrence Teachers Union, Local 1019, 1,200 plus members strong. When we meet in our upcoming contract negotiations, we want to ensure that our collective voices that you hear tonight are listened to. With substantial levels of state and federal aid in our school district, over $80 million from ESSER funds, LPS has once-in-a-generation opportunity to give our students and their families the support that they need. The pandemic is still going on, and families need our support. The money is so that we can deal with it and recover from it. But Lawrence is slow to spend the aid in meaningful ways. Our schools are experiencing severe shortages of school staff. Our students need social, emotional, and academic support, and we need the right amount of staff to provide that. Under receivership, we have lost hundreds of teachers every year, hundreds. Hundreds of low-wage school jobs have left for higher-paying jobs, and recently for jobs where they don't have to face the potential of getting COVID exposure at work. The solution is clear. The district needs to pay workers higher, more competitive wages, and they can afford to do so. Thanks to the Student Opportunity Act that we fought for and the substantial federal aid, Lawrence Public Schools can afford to pay educators and support staff competitive wages and benefits. These school jobs shouldn't be paying poverty wages. Educators shouldn't have to turn out for freedom to teach, for respect, for competitive wages. With funding, we can afford to turn these jobs into good jobs. We can afford to do things for our community, keeping federal and state aid in the community. We have the money, and we can't waste another minute. We can't afford to delay. Students need our support right now to recover from the pandemic and to get back on track. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Sean Steele.
There's going to be almost nothing that I can say tonight that hasn't been echoed by everyone I work alongside each day. The problems that we are experiencing are not new problems. These have been problems that we have faced year in and year out. And under the current conditions, it has come to a simmering boil. We are not at a capacity to continue to make this tenable. Year after year after year, we lose more and more and more staff. We have devalued the labor of all of us to such a degree that it is absurd. We have dehumanized our students by telling them they don't deserve the same level of professionalism, the same quality of education that every other surrounding community does. I have been teaching here for 5 years. That is not a very long time. And in those 5 years, I am now in the top 80th percentile of seniority in my grade. That is absurd. We cannot build strong communities where students and staff feel cared for and listened to when we have a constant revolving door. That's it.
Thank you. Krista Crane.
It's Joanna Rodriguez. Is it my turn?
I have Krista Crane, I believe it is. And then Johanna Rodriguez, yeah.
My name is Krista Crane, and this is my 20th year teaching kindergarten in Lawrence. All of my 20 years have been at the Lawler School in Room 5. I would love to say that I will stay in Lawrence and finish my teaching career, but each year, we as LPS teachers feel less and less valued. It's not easy to show up to work each day when you feel that you are not treated as a professional. It's not easy to show up when your opinions of scheduling, work partners, curriculums, and students' needs are not taken seriously. It's not easy to show up when you're not allowed to teach in your own style with your own voice. It's not easy to show up, but we still show up. We show up for our students' families, our colleagues, and we show up because teaching is the job we love. We show up because we know we make a difference every day, and we know our experience is helping our students become lifelong learners. It would be so easy to show up if we felt supported, not judged, listened to, not ignored, valued, and not easily replaceable. If Lawrence wants highly qualified teachers who love their jobs, they need to wake up. We are not here to be talked down to and micromanaged. We know what our students need, and we work so hard all day, every day, to ensure we give them all they need and so much more. I just wish someone was up all night thinking about teachers' needs the way teachers lay awake thinking about their students' needs. When will teachers have a voice? When will new teachers get the support they need? When will our paraprofessionals be valued? We show up, we work hard, we do our jobs, and then some. We adapt, we change, and we grow. We need your support to have a voice, get a fair contract, and be compensated and valued, as well as our surrounding towns' teachers are compensated and valued. We need change, or we will make a change out of Lawrence. And if work conditions continue as they are today, it will be an easy decision.
Next, we have Johanna Rodriguez, and then afterwards, Hillary Lynch, Heather McDonald, Mike Carney, and Rebecca Velu, I believe it is.
Good evening, board. My name is Joanna Rodriguez. I work at the Gilmet Middle School. In 1968, while supporting a strike by sanitation workers, Dr. King defined power as the ability to achieve purpose and effect change. To understand leadership, we must talk about power. Brene Brown writes of 4 levels of power, beginning with power over. The use of fear to divide, destabilize, and devalue decency. Our district leaders have misused their power as power over in the following ways. 1, Lawrence received almost $100 million in additional funding from the SOA and COVID relief. Where are the funds needed to address the issues we are experiencing daily regarding the SEL needs of our students? 2, we are in year 2 without a contract, yet our teachers show up every day to get the job done because it's what we do. We have risked our health and lives through daily exposure to unvaccinated populations while going through our own adversities. 3, as of October, cost of living and inflation rose by 6.2%, while our wages have declined by 3%. Power over is increasing our pay a mere $1,500, which is less than 2% of our current salary, when districts across the nation are getting stipends for working during the pandemic and fighting for fair wages. Lawrence is gifted with an additional half day before the holiday break. 4, power over is decreasing stipends for Acceleration Academy, where teachers put in double the amount of work to make sure our students are well prepared to be successful in their state assessments. 5, it is a district showing up to a negotiation meeting with a black screen and a name and not showing up to have difficult and necessary conversations with us. In closing, we reject power over leadership and demand power with shared leadership that is transformative, empathetic, compassionate to unite, stabilize, and empower our district, from administration to teachers, and ultimately, and most importantly, our students. Thank you.
Hillary Lynch.
Good evening. My name is Hillary Lynch, as teacher at Lawrence High and a North Lawrence resident. I'm here tonight to talk about data I've been collecting and legal criteria I've been analyzing as part of my work in the Ed Policy Program at the Lynch School of Human Development and Education at BC. I'm prefacing that I have a lot of information coming. I have printed copies of this letter in long form for anyone who'd like to look at the data at their convenience. I first want to touch upon the composition of the LAE Board, which has been the LPS receiver since April 18th, 2018, as appointed by Commissioner Riley. Under Massachusetts General Law, Part 1, Title 12, Chapter 69, Section 1K, the receiver must be, quote, an individual with demonstrated record of success in improving low-performance schools or districts with the academic performance of disadvantaged students. And I stand here with all due respect asking who here fits that description. If that answer is that the demonstrated record of success is via the continued implementation of the LPS turnaround plan created in part by Commissioner Riley, who does fit that qualification, I challenge that. Using targeted measurable annual goals from Appendix B of the 2015 turnaround plan with data from the 2012 turnaround plan and public access of DESI to determine LPS's success in 13 areas specified by receivership law, there are 52 goals that we have data to evaluate. Of those 52, Of those 52 goals, LPS met 21, or 40%. According to the Lawrence Public School grading policy, that's 10% below the threshold of failing we're allowed to put in our grade books for students. LPS is currently working under a turnaround plan that was created in 2015. According to receivership law, subsection F, the turnaround plan should be authorized for a period of not more than 3 years. It has been 7. Subsection G further states that the commission and receiver shall provide a quarterly written report to provide specific information about the progress made of the turnaround plan. The last publicly published comment from Commissioner Riley about the status of our receivership was May 18th, 2018, quote, while there has been significant improvement in the district, LPS has not improved sufficiently to remove from level 5 status, end quote. So I ask, 7 years since the last turnaround was created, 3 years since that single sentence evaluation, where and what is the plan? Thank you.
Thank you. Heather McDonald.
Each day is a new battle of getting out of bed and showing up to work. I'm running off of, on average, 5 hours of sleep each night. I'm at wit's end. I'm extremely nervous as I'm driving to work each morning that my only prep period will be taken from me to substitute for a class. My prep is the only time I have to breathe, collect myself, or even use the bathroom during the day, free of the presence of students. When taken from me, this means even more work to complete at home, resulting in little sleep, fatigue, the struggle to get out of bed or show up to work again, loss of family friend time, and inadequate self-care. I'm not paid for this work I do outside of contract hours in order to stay afloat and pass my evaluations. Being forced to substitute without pay is unsustainable. I am drowning. I am depressed. This pattern is cyclic. I worked so hard in college to earn my degree. It's a miracle I was able to even make it through college financially. I thought I could get some of my student loans forgiven, but come to find out, 98% of student loan forgiveness applications get denied because of DESE's various loopholes like that of not accepting years of service one completes on a provisional license. I'm unable to move out of my parents' home because I do not make a large enough income to afford both, my student loans and a home. Go online and look at the salaries at Boston Public Schools or Lowell Public Schools. We are not paid enough. It's no secret that our school is in a state of crisis. Teachers continue to quit regularly, resulting in students missing out on learning and having no teacher for extended periods of time. I'm offended that people above the school continue to point fingers at the staff within the school as well as our students. The only thing that manages to get me out of bed in the morning are these kids. They deserve somebody to show up for them. They are compassionate, loving, fun, lovable children trying to adapt to an unstructured school. They feel the stress of us being understaffed as much as we do. Blame and responsibility is put on us as we are forced to spend our time participating in training to then roll out mental health interventions, wellness check-ins, and circle discussions to students. This is an extra job. We are taking on too many roles. Release the money. Pay our staff so that we can retain our teachers. Pay our staff so there's enough of us to run our school properly. Heather McDonald, 9. LSA 9.
Thank you. Mike Carney.
Good evening. My name is Mike Carney. I'm a teacher at LHS, and I am loving the energy in this room right now. History is made by those who show up, and y'all have more than showed up tonight. Thank you, everyone. This is only my third year in the district, but I've had to protect my students through a variety of crises, including the 3-hour school shooter lockdown, fire and black smoke billowing out of our bathroom, the traumas of the pandemic daily, and I've had to break up numerous fights, including one on the day where 4 staff members were hospitalized. Who else in this room has tried to stop a fight or felt the pain of knowing you can't protect your kids while working at LPS? It's funny. I don't see many hands popping up around that table, and I hope to pretty soon. I'll need everyone in this room to pledge to something in just a moment, and anything less than the board's full support will be negligent of our children's safety. Do we pledge to use the over $80 million in ESSER funds to ensure all of our English learners and special education students have a co-teacher or para in all of their classes? Do we pledge to use that $80 million to dramatically raise the wages of paras, teachers, and all staff, bringing us up from the lowest wages in the state? Do we pledge to use that $80 million to hire more counselors so that students are more than just a number when they're having a suicidal or mental health crisis? Now I need everyone in this room to please stand up and raise your hand if you pledge to these very basic demands of dignity for our children. Do not be shy. Stand up for our kids. This is beautiful. This is not. This crisis begins with staffing. Our 9th grade started this year with around 50 teachers, and we have lost over 20 in 3 months. Last month, the paras told you we had lost 100 of them across the district in only 2 months. This leaves many of us, especially paras, risking our lives to keep our schools running, uncompensated, I might add. We've redefined the phrase essential workers, and yet you've never paid us a cent more. We have spent countless hours telling you what you already know, that to stop our wave of school violence and arrests, to increase student access to college and financial stability, to empower every single child in Lawrence to believe that they can achieve greatness, we must fund it, and we have the money.
Mr. Carney, thank you.
Stand up for Lawrence.
Thank you.
Or Lawrence will unseat you.
Next speaker is Rebecca Velu. Rebecca? Great. And then after, if you could just be ready, also near the mic, please, Katie Sugg-Martinez, Christine Colucci, Heather Levine, Laura Santana.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yep.
My name is Rebecca Veyu, and I'm a science teacher in the upper school at Lawrence High School. I've been working at Lawrence High School since 1999. I come before you tonight to ask for two things. Number one, please end receivership now. Number two, stop starting from scratch. We need small, actionable steps that staff can take in time to perfect them towards revitalizing Lawrence High School. Receivership is just another Band-Aid to make it look like the wound is getting better, all while it's infected underneath. Let's rip the Band-Aid off and take care of our students the way they deserve. This starts by taking care of our teachers, administrators, and student support staff. Nurture our staff so that we can cultivate our students. What evidence do we have to show that receivership has improved our school? If we don't have clear evidence, why not? We can't blame any one person. It's the cyclical systemic failure that continuously haunts our faculty and students every single year. The failure of one administration after the next to improve Lawrence High School has led to a mass exodus of teachers and unengaged students in the classroom. Every change in leadership brings new curriculum and teaching methods that we are charged to implement with little to no training. The frequency of changes is overwhelming and gives us whiplash. We change curricula before being asked for an honest assessment of the ones we're abandoning. We will never be good enough if we don't have time to perfect our craft. This is one of the primary reasons teachers leave us. We must start with retaining teachers who care about our students and who can form strong professional bonds with them. Please use your dedicated and experienced teachers, like me, to lead the way in curricular development and implementation. We know our students in content better than anyone else. We are the licensed professionals who have earned our degrees. The micromanaging of our profession must stop. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Katie?
Hi, my name is Katie Sugg-Martinez. I teach at LAE Newcomer Academy, and I'm about to say a lot of the same things that a lot of my colleagues have said, which may seem redundant, but I think it's just, it serves to emphasize how important these issues are and how widespread this issue is, because we all wrote these speeches on our own. So I want to speak on behalf of the kids, as so many of my colleagues have done. The young people of Lawrence deserve the same individualized attention, care, and support as their peers in Methuen, Andover, Haverhill, and all the neighboring towns. And right now, their teachers simply cannot give that to them because there are not enough of us. And there are not enough of us because other districts are offering a more livable salary. And I don't know if any of you have ever experienced this, but as a teacher, it is so painful to see a student in front of you who has a need and be powerless to meet that need. And that is what so many teachers are experiencing right now. If you have a student who's in need of something that you can't give them because you have 30 other students in your class that you need to deal with. And we know that so many of our students are hurting because of what all of my colleagues have spoken about, the specific behaviors we're seeing. Our students are crying out for help. And actually, just yesterday, the Surgeon General issued a public health advisory on the mental health crisis that youth are facing in this country due to the pandemic's effects on all of our lives. And we all know how hard Lawrence has been hit by that pandemic. So that Health advisories should be doubled for our community. And right now, our kids are struggling. They're struggling personally, emotionally, academically, psychologically, and their teachers have very little to give them. We will continue to hurt our students and the young people of our community in this way if we do not raise teacher and paraprofessional salaries to a competitive level, because we will continue to lose teachers, as my colleagues have talked about. I don't need to say it again. They've already said it. But I'm sure that every person in this room knows at least one teacher who is halfway out the door right now. And so this will continue if we don't make a change. So my question for you is this: what is your job, if not at the very least, to protect and serve the young people of this community? If you do not raise our salaries, you will be failing at that job. Thank you.
Kristen Colucci.
My name is Kristen Colucci. I've been here at LHS teaching ELA for 10 years, and I am angry. Teachers and students are struggling emotionally. These emotions are manifesting in many ways. Teachers are becoming physically ill. Students are becoming physically ill. Teachers are sad and angry, frustrated and defeated. Exorbitant number of kids are in the hallways at all times. We have lost valuable prep time, being forced to patrol the hallways only to get accosted by the students being told, "Mind your business." I have had to stop my class several times because truant students are yelling in the hallway to where I cannot teach. If I don't go out into the hallway and say something, what is the message I am sending to the students sitting in my classroom? That behavior is acceptable. I do not blame these students. I blame you. You have over $80 million at your expense to help us. We are asking, help us now. Students are walking late into class without fear of repercussion because there are none. Students are not even wearing their uniforms because there are no repercussions. Students are busting into classrooms, disrupting, yelling profanity because there are no repercussions. And understand this, I do not blame my administration. I blame you. I blame you for giving us absolutely no support. You have given us no resources. We need people who are patrolling the hallways at all times until the students understand the message that it is imperative that they receive an education by going into classrooms and not hanging out in the hallways. You have $84 million. Do something with it.
Colucci, thank you. Next speaker is Heather Levine, or Levine, apologies.
Hi, my name is Heather Levine. I live at 1 Lindner Court in Lawrence. Yesterday, I ended the day with a student's blood on my hands, on my mask, on my phone, on my floor, and on my desks. He was attacked in the hallway outside of my classroom after school, and I stepped in to shelter and bring him to safety. I don't teach this student. I don't even know his name, but I know that we failed to keep him safe, and I know that he needed help. And while I'm grateful I could be there, too many of our students this year have not had someone there to help them when they needed it. There's something about the blood that really puts it all into perspective. About a month ago, a student of mine was in crisis. She came in crying, asking for help, and embarrassed refused to enter the classroom. I texted our entire 5-person administration team, no answer. I called all the counselors, no answer. This student was left to sit in the hallway and cry. I hugged her, and I let a friend sit with her because it was the best that I could do as the only adult around. And this is not to imply that our administration or counselors are not doing their jobs, but we are all completely overwhelmed, stretched too thin, and without resources, so our students and us are suffering. This year, for example, as mentioned, teachers have been constantly forced to sub without any extra pay. We sacrifice our little prep time, which should be dedicated to family outreach, feedback for students, and lesson plans, all things that are directly related to our students' success. But we have had no daily subs at my school for weeks now, and we have a severe shortage of long-term subs for teachers who've resigned or are out on leaves, meaning our students are learning nothing for weeks on end, seeing a different face every day. So put yourself in their shoes. No one shows up to teach them, no one is showing up when they need help, and no one seems to care. I might skip class and wander the hallways too. We are still in a pandemic, our students are in crisis, and we are failing them. We need to stop lying about being fully staffed. This board needs to use our millions of dollars of federal and state aid to offer competitive, livable salaries that attract and retain the educators in our schools. We need to create more new positions, not just the 7 touted at the start of the year, to better support our thousands of deserving students. These demands are not new. We are begging. Please act before the blood is on your hands, too.
Laura Santana. And then just as well, after Ms. Santana, Suzanne Suliveras, and I believe it's Sunny. And then after that, Vernon Chambers.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Laura Santana. I am a paraprofessional at the John Breen, and I'm a homeowner in Lawrence. I come before you as a graduate of the Robert Frost School and Lawrence High School. I went off to college, got my bachelor's degree, and came back to help my city, make my city a better place. But what else can I say that hasn't been said already at the last meeting and this one? New hires are being paid at a higher rate than people like myself who have been working for the city for over 5 years. With these actions, we are being told that we are easily replaceable and that new inexperienced workers are what you want. We feel undervalued, misunderstood, and not listened to. Why did I go to college if my time and experience isn't going to be valued by the very school system that told me to go out and further my education, but to make sure to come back home to help my fellow Laurentians? Why should I stay past this school year if Methuen and Haverhill are paying close to 1.5 times my current rate? Instead of putting value on Lawrence citizens already in the school system, you would rather hire new paraprofessionals. Waste your time training them, while experienced people are literally leaving for McDonald's, which is starting pay at a higher rate than you are paying us now. Think about it. Wouldn't you want to just keep experienced paraprofessionals who would work harder for you, for more money instead? We want to stay here and help teach the next generation of the city, not be in what has essentially become an abusive relationship. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Suzanne Salveras, and I am the proud president of the Lawrence Federation of Paraprofessionals. Local 3900. As you recall, the LFP came to you on November 10th, 2021, to voice our concern on how the district was hiring new employees above the hourly pay scale, refusing to increase paraprofessional hourly wage and ignoring their loyal and dedicated paraprofessionals. As of Friday, December 3rd, the district sent an email to several paraprofessionals informing them a retention bonus of $2,500 will be given to only 90 special education paras. You can imagine the shock and disbelief the other 284 paraprofessionals felt. The district's total disregard for our members is not only upsetting, but it is also troubling. To think our employer doesn't feel we are an important asset to our students, it goes to show you that they really don't understand who we are. We are here because of our students. We build bonds, we build relationships, and we build long-lasting friendships with our students because we want to help and make a difference. You will hear from the district the reason for this bonus is because these are hard-to-fill positions. On the contrary, they are also hiring parent liaisons, instructional paras, and emergency hires, which are not part of our union, at the top of the scale, not just for special education paras. So we are asking once again, Chairman Rodriguez and LAE board members, to consider all paraprofessionals, exceptional circumstances, and increase our pay to the maximum hourly rate so that we may be competitive with the wages across the Commonwealth and earn a living wage. Thank you.
Sunny? Next speaker, Sunny. Sorry, Sunny Sue. Sorry, I can't read the last name. Yep. Thank you. That's it.
Hi, sorry about that. Yeah, my name is Sunny Ski, and I'm not feeling sunny at all. There's a saying in my school, I represent Spark Academy, I'm the building rep, that a happy ski is a happy me. I have not felt happy in this district, I would say, since the Merrimack Valley explosions. I don't think it was handled well. I think about our students every day. I don't know of the wraparound services they received. I don't think they had special counseling. I don't think there were counselors on site. I know our one counselor in our building to our 468 children was completely overwhelmed and has outsourced work to Merrimack College and has interns coming in to help this year because he's been so overwhelmed these past 3 years. Kudos to him. He's a genius. But also, that shouldn't be his job. I also, as I was sitting here writing my multiple copies that I think are trash, that we've been in unprecedented times and that should call for unprecedented measures, and it doesn't seem that we've taken that. We've gone on like business as usual, and as many said before me, this is why we're seeing the behaviors that the children are exhibiting. They need help, and we don't have the ability to help them, the capability to help them. And I thought of a former student recently on the news, not for a good reason, currently being on trial for a very egregious crime. I don't want to say his name because I've loved that student. He was such a good child when I knew him as a middle schooler. I want to know what happened between now and then. He was in the school at the high school level during the Merrimack Valley explosions. Did he get the needs he needed? Did he get counseling? He was near the child who died that same day. They were in the same yard, right? We failed him. And he's not the only one. I learned about 7 other students currently in jail. And it wasn't lost on me that you were late today. At 6:14, 4 people walked in. By 6:25, you were sitting down. The last time I remember being that late was April 14th, 6:42 p.m. I had emailed Jessica Andors at least 4 times asking where everyone was, and it was noted it was an executive section. That was time before we said we had no confidence in Paris as our superintendent. And today I noticed that we had an issue with collective bargaining because the Department of Labor has sided with the union, that we have not been bargaining in good faith. And again, we had an extended executive session.
Ms. Key, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. But I just want to finish.
Okay,
This really
so,
hurts
Ms.
my
Vernon-
soul.
Sorry, Ms. Ski.
I know you're sorry.
I want to get to Mr. Vernon Chambers, who's the next speaker who's signed up.
I just want to make sure I am heard and the students are heard.
We've heard you, Ms. Ski. Thank you. Mr. Vernon Chambers, please. Is there a Mr. Vernon Chambers? Okay, Luis Cruz. And then after, if you could just be ready, Enid Santiago Julio Ramos. We'll go there, and then we have a few speakers after that.
Can you all hear me?
Yep.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Luis Cruz. I'm an educator at the Frost. I'm also cross-country and track coach at the high school. So that's where I graduated from in 2011, right before receivership took place. And at this point, I wanted to express some of my concerns. So the first thing is that I believe that all our teachers need to be trusted, right? We spent so many years and dollars to educate ourselves in our profession. You know, I work with educators who taught me when I was younger at the Frost, and, you know, they have so much expertise, so many experiences teaching, and, you know, they're being told that they're going to attend all these other meetings and not be given the proper planning time that they need because they got to continue to adjust to different curriculums and all this other stuff that they got to do. I get it. We can all be better versions of ourselves, but we need time to develop, improve, and reflect on our craft like someone else has mentioned. I feel like we're continuously changing our curriculum, and it's not fair if we're not able to be given the time to work on that curriculum. The second thing that I want to point out is something that has been mentioned as well. We need to retain our teachers. Myself, as a homegrown educator who grew up here, went to school here, I think that it's been very, very difficult over the past couple of years to be motivated, right? To be here and teach our youth. That's the number one thing that I wanted to do once I graduated high school and college. And I feel like with other teachers that are not homegrown, but they're from other communities that spend many years trying to develop themselves and come to this community and help the community, they're also feeling the same way. I think we need a more appealing contract, for sure. I think one thing that brings teachers here is going to be an appealing contract, and we need to be able to, keyword, retain our teachers, especially those teachers that have been teaching here for many, many years, like some of my fellow colleagues.
Mr. Cruz, thank you. Sorry, we're at time. Appreciate your comments. Enid Santiago. Enid Santiago.
Good evening. My name is Enid Santiago. I'm going to repeat whatever everybody here said before me. I'm a para here in Lawrence. My school only have 5 paras. It's not, let's say it's not that big of a school. We're still missing 4 hirings. We need to manage to try to work with the teachers for the benefit of our students. If we said the students or the children are the future, why can't we try and put the amount of money that is necessary for them to thrive? Why do we, this was the riddle that I was trying to do. Sorry. My riddle is this. Riddle this. I work with public, I serve their needs, and they are thankful for it. My starting wage, salary is $17.50. Where do you think I work? It's not as a para. Those are parents from my school that say, I work at Dunkin' Donuts, I work at McDonald's, I work at Market Basket. Why don't I apply over there? Because I love my job. I love my students. I love when they say, hi, Miss Santiago, how are you today? I love those children. And the 2 years that COVID took them from us, we need to be counselors. We need to help the teachers because they need their mental breaks. We need our mentor breaks, and we can get it. The other thing, these are what we can come here. I have 5 paras that couldn't be here. One of them has 2 children. One's 6 years old, the other one is 4. Her mom is sick. She couldn't be here, but she wanted to be here because she wanted to be heard. I have others that I know my 2 minutes are off, but this is not all of us. What we're missing is because we can't be here. Thank you, I'm sorry.
Ms. Santiago. Julio Ramos.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Julio Ramos. I'm the Vice President of the Lawrence Para.
I'm also a SES paraprofessional and a coach at Lawrence High School. Lifelong resident of Lawrence and a proud Lancer. I believe a lot of the things that I'm about to say has already been said, and the passion and commitment of our youth and for our youth have been heard through the educators and staff behind me. We need a fair wage. I don't believe that anybody in the United States with a college education, especially an educator, should have to work an extra 20 hours to hold down a family. We're not asking for much, but fairness. We serve a community that is naturally at high risk due to living in a city that's under-resourced and urban. But for the first time in a very long time, our federal and local government has provided the proper resources during this pandemic to provide what is needed for our children. That includes proper educators and staffing. Let's not let this opportunity pass us. Our kids deserve better. Our educators deserve better. A revolving door in our educational system is not the answer. I often, as the coach say, it takes a special person to coach in Lawrence because our kids are in need. You sign up as a coach, but you become a mentor, a father figure, a counselor, and a friend. And I know for sure the educators that signed up and the staff that signed up behind me also signed up to educate, but I also sure they become a mentor, a father, a mother figure, a counselor, and a friend to our youth. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The last three speakers are Daniela Ayala, I believe it's Marlon Santiago, and Josh Alba. So the first one's Daniela Ayala. No one wants? No. Marlon Santiago.
Good evening. I did not sign up. I thought there was a sign-in sheet, but I'm here.
You don't have to.
All right, thank you for your time. My name is Daniela Ayala. I live here in Lawrence. I am also a homegrown educator. I attended Lawrence Public Schools since I immigrated here at 5 years old. My story is pretty traditional, a little bumps along the way. I was actually undocumented for 10 years of my life. And in those 10 years, there were certain opportunities that were not presented to me. But along the way, I had some really strong educators that provided me with the support, the guidance, and everything that I needed. That inspired me to definitely go out on my own, graduate college, went to Brandeis University, and do everything I can to come back here and give back to my community. I agree with my colleagues when I say that the things that I have been witnessing, hearing, and experiencing have been disturbing. The things that I have family members who are current Lawrence High School students or alum have had to face breaks my heart. I feel powerless to help them. I feel powerless to help even my own friends who are also educators here at Lawrence High School or other schools around the district. I feel like competitive salaries, competitive wages are definitely a step in the right direction, but we need to also think about how this money is being allocated. All right, we can't just think we're going to throw money here, we're going to throw money there, increase salaries across the board. That is the first step, but we actually need to listen to staff members and allocate these resources where they actually belong, because we can't just be buying up curriculum left and right that then also contributes to the problems that don't solve them, create another Band-Aid on the wound. We need to have all stakeholders present before we make those decisions, including students and families, which I haven't heard really be mentioned as much in regards to making these decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Marlon Santiago.
All right, this is going to be a speech on the fly because I did not sign up for this, but I am going to speak as well as Daniela Ayala and Luis Cruz. We graduated the same graduating class, 2011. Lancer students coming back to our community because we were told we should come back to our community and be able to support those who come after us. Now, speaking from my experience from when I was in Lawrence High School, a few of the things that helped me the most was consistency and a safe environment. Our teachers were there all 4 years. Our teachers who stay for more than 3 years make a difference in our students' lives. Being able to retain teachers who not only care about our students, but have the ability to teach them and have them go further in their lives is what we need to keep in our schools. Another thing, like I mentioned, is being able to feel safe in our environments. What was able to help us with that was teachers who we saw every single year, who had the autonomy to be able to teach in their own way in our classrooms, who were able to teach us the things that they knew we would need in our lives, because other students in other districts who have more money, who have teachers who are able to stay all these years, they knew we were missing that in Lawrence, and they wanted to make sure that we had those same opportunities. All these teachers behind me are trying to make sure that our students continue to have the same opportunities that I did, and that's what I want to do too. I want to make sure that our students can move forward, but in this environment that we're currently in, they are not able to do so. They are screaming out for help, and we need to ensure that we are providing that, and we are not. We are failing our students at this moment.
The last speaker is Josh Alba.
Yes, I'm listening. Josh Alba, Lawrence School Committee, 300 Methuen Street. I didn't intend to speak tonight, and I'm glad that I'm here, and I'm glad that everybody's here. And I'm like figuring out, what the hell am I going to say tonight? What the hell am I going to say as a non-educator, as an elected official, as a Lawrence kid, as an activist for over 15 years in the community that hasn't already been said? And the only thing that I could think of is that you know what's happening. You know exactly what's happening. With your college educations, with Riley's education, with connections to Harvard, MIT, all the other schools y'all went to, you know full well what's happening here. Right? I don't have a college degree. I dropped out. I know my culture, I know our history, I know workers' rights. I'm just like, how the hell is it that me, who's less educated than everybody in this goddamn room, knows about what's happening historically to our black and brown community, where workers are being disrespected and exploited everywhere, where we had to fight across the state for $15 goddamn minimum wage for paid leave, and educators and professionals across this country are being marginalized, are being mistreated, are being abused, are being exploited, and not listened to, and not included in the decision-making process? Like, you guys are a part of a classist history of disenfranchising poor communities. It just is what it is. This has to stop. It will frickin' stop. And I'm kind of like talking to the teachers right here now. Like, power concedes nothing without a demand. This country's labor history, I worked at the Bread and Roses Festival for 7 years, and I got radicalized listening to labor and workers. And if If we don't fight for our rights, if we don't continue this fight, they're never, ever going to concede or do anything that we want to do. They're never going to do what we need for people in power to do. They're never going to give us our schools back unless we make them scared, unless we hit them in their wallets, unless their ways of life are threatened, because you're making our lives hell. A teacher had blood on her hands. I'm sorry, but Jesus Christ, I'm elected. You're not. I'm going to talk, all right, how I want to.
Thank you.
No,
Appreciate
man,
the
listen,
comments.
This is messed up, man. This is messed up.
Thank you for the comments. We've now reached the end of public comment, and we'd like to be able to go on with our agenda. Mr. Alba, I ask that you please let us go on with our agenda. So, Mr. Alba, I ask that you please let us get on with our agenda. Thank you. So we've reached the end of public comment, and we'll now move to the superintendent's report. I'm going to ask for the board for just a 5-minute recess. Is that okay? Okay. Great. All right, we are going to pick up the agenda with the superintendent's report, so I'll hand it over to you, Superintendent.
Great, thank you so much. So next, we wanted to give you a fiscal update, including conversations that we had with the Budget Subcommittee about proposed budget goals. So in a moment, Maciel will share with you the progress to date for the fiscal year 21-22 goals, and then proposed years, and you'll see that these become multi-year goals. And also, if you have any questions in the memo that she has issued to you all in your documents. Go ahead, Maciel.
Hi, everyone. Before you, you have our current budget priorities. And as you can see, the first column states the priority, whether it's a multi-year goal, and what the current progress is. The first one is student achievement, which is also a multi-year goal. And in the right column, I have presented to you our progress for this year. And unless you have any questions, I will go ahead and keep on going. Our second one is support services, which is also another multi-year goal. And you will also see to the right of that all the progress that we have made thus far this year. And then that one also is a multi-year goal. And then the third one is growing a culturally responsible workforce, also a multi-year goal. And you will see what we have done for progress for this year as well. And deepening family and student in partnerships. Deepening family and student partnerships is also another multi-year goal. And to the right, you have the progress we've made for this year. So unless you have any questions, I will go ahead for the description of what we will propose for the new budget year as well.
Thanks, Maciel. I'll just add that, most of these will continue, and we will be proposing for them to extend to another year, given the start and stops that we've had in the past 18 months and beyond, and we believe it's worthy of maintaining some of the stability as we continue to make progress in these goals. And most of you heard this throughout the budget subcommittee meeting, and so if there are very specific questions towards either the progress and or some of these goals, Maciel will carry on with describing again those three broad goals and any questions that you all have.
Sure. So the proposal was made to the subcommittee to continue with these same goals. So for student achievement, to provide equitable standards, aligned curricula, and instruction for all of our students. Support services, expand continuum of academic, social, emotional, and mental health support, particularly for at-risk students. Third goal would be to grow a culturally responsive workforce, deepening efforts to recruit, retain, and train culturally responsive, highly effective teaching and professional staff. And our fourth and final goal would be to deepen family and student partnerships, deepen and expand ways in which the district engages the families and students, grow family and student engagement to build partnerships in service of student success in areas of attendance, academics, and holistic development.
Dave, I think those are at the bottom of this document if you scroll up.
Oh, sorry about that, Dave.
That's
yes,
all right.
please.
Yeah, here they come. Thank you.
So unless you have any questions for me.
Just turning to board members if there are questions. Yep. Right. I have maybe just one question, and we will be voting on the board priority, or the budget priorities rather, as presented here, which we also had a subcommittee meeting of the budget, which is why many members participated, and I think we're able to ask and answer questions. Just wanted to check in, one of the, on the support services, I know we've been talking about this for years as part of Student Opportunity Act dollars and things like that, the addition of staff, like in particular, the memo talks about 72 FTEs, counselors, BCBAs, CNAs. I mean, and we knew that was a big investment, and we felt like it was the right investment just for supporting our kids. Where are we with those 72 FTEs? Are those roles that we've been able to fill? Just what's the status of that?
Yes, so the 72 that you see there are the ones that have been hired since we started this goal. We continue to hire, and we'll continue to hire as many as we need.
Great. Other questions from board members? Okay. So hearing none, I would ask for a motion to approve the 2022-23 school year district priorities for the budget.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Great. And I don't know if they had any questions on the memo of the fiscal update.
I guess last round of questions, I don't think so, but
No. I just want to say that, Messiel, you did a great job at the subcommittee, and you answered all my questions. So that's why I don't have anything to ask you tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Ed.
Thank you for your time.
Next, we'll talk about the turnaround plan. In your documents, you have the full draft of the plan, and in a moment, Ventura will walk us through some of that process and where we are today.
sorry, I'm trying to pull up my notes on here as well. So this is a culmination of what's been several years in the making. The turnaround plan for the district expired, but under state law, we were able to continue operating under the current plan until a new plan was created. As you may remember, starting in February, March of 2020, we began, well, even before that, we began engagement to update the plan. And then in February, March, COVID hit. So we felt like we still wanted to get some more feedback on the plan, but we had to pause, obviously because of COVID. So what we then did is, with the start of sort of into the summer this school year, we worked with Great Schools Partnership to help us do another round of community engagement. We'd gotten a lot of feedback on the front end around the plan, and this board voted to update the plan. But because of the pause due to COVID in February, March, we decided to do a second round of feedback, again, that Great Schools Partnership facilitated for us. In addition, we had a committee of various stakeholders that met to look at sort of what the plan was for engagement, and then also to review some of the feedback that was received. So there are four main strategies in the plan, and what this document here on the screen shows is the themes that are under each of the strategies, what the feedback sort of summarized by Great Schools Partnership was from different stakeholders, and then specifically what that feedback led to, which oftentimes it led to additions or changes in the plan itself to reflect the feedback that was gathered. I won't go through all of them, but as you'll see, there's some that are green, which is like acceleration academies. Generally, the feedback was positive and supported. There were a few areas you'll see that are neutral, where the feedback wasn't really strong one way or another, but in some cases we still did make some adjustments to the actual language of the turnaround plan. The earned autonomy framework, when we got feedback like we're not familiar with it, what it meant to us in terms of the change in the turnaround plan was clearly we need to develop and communicate. This is work that we've been doing over the last year and a half, 2 years. And so what we did, again, in all the areas was look at the themes, got feedback on them, and then added language or made some adjustments to the turnaround plan itself. And so you'll see that in here, an example of ensuring the student support and stabilization teams. We already addressed it in the plan, but I think because people support it, but just really want to make sure that it's highlighted in the plan itself. Third area, again, support and engagement. A lot of support for some of the work that's already happening, was already in the plan. But when we looked at things like, sort of some stakeholders asking for expansion, collaboration with community-based organizations, we made sure that in the plan then we went back and thought more about how do we respond to that feedback. And so, again, what you see in that edits column is specific language that was and changes that were made to the turnaround plan itself. Similarly, again, with autonomy and accountability, just responding to the feedback specifically that we heard from stakeholders. And then in addition to the 4 areas which we heard, there were additional themes that we wanted to make sure were captured based on the feedback that we received. So one was that stakeholders want clarity in the proposed plan about the path for LPS out of receivership. And so that came loud and clear from the feedback that was received. And so what you'll see in the plan itself is in the plan itself, we include all the actual feedback that was received, sort of the summary of it written. So it's part of one of the appendices in the turnaround plan. So you'll see the themes of the comments that people made, including themes around, wanting this path out of receivership. As the board may have seen also from reading it in the executive summary, I think try to be clear that for this board, we don't decide when receivership ends. That's the authority of the commissioner and the Board of Ed. However, we've made it very clear that from our standpoint as a board, our job is to oversee the implementation of the turnaround plan. And it's my expectation that the goals that are in that plan, our job is to meet those goals. And that is part of then, by us meeting those goals, that's part of the information that, and the data, quite frankly, that the commissioner and the state will use to make their final determinations around exiting receivership. So the language in the plan as well, talks about the commissioner meeting with city leaders to talk through what that could look like in the coming year. So, but I just want to be clear that for this board, because we heard the feedback, we wanted to make sure that the actual feedback was in the plan that we heard, and also that we're very clear that our assumption as a board is that our job to meet the goals of the plan is part of the decision that the commissioner will then use to, eventually to think about what comes next for the district. I think that's it for the different areas. So I'm going to pause there. Obviously, the plan, again, it's been 3 years in the making, and I know this board and many of you have been engaged in feedback on the front end throughout, and so we're, in many ways feel like what this plan says is that we've made some progress, and that's clear. However, there's more work to do, and so rather than design a new plan, this board worked to update the strategies and make sure that they're relevant to the needs and experiences of our kids currently. So I'll pause there, see if there are any additional board member questions, comments before we discuss a vote.
So Ventura, where in this, the understanding that you just articulated, right, which we discussed, which is that it's our understanding as a board that meeting the goals of the turnaround plan constitutes one of the necessary benchmarks, like pointing the way to a path out of receivership. Where do we articulate that in this plan?
Yeah, on page 4.
Because I didn't.
You want to point us to the language? Yeah, so I think it's the last 2-ish paragraphs, I think talk about part of the improvement, but I think really it's I guess it's the last paragraph or second to last that, as a result of our feedback, I think, to the department, that there's a tangible here that the receiver, which is us as a board, really, and the commissioner, will meet with the mayor of Lawrence and other city officials to review the district's performance. And the language here is that the commissioner in school year 22-23 and the receiver will meet with city officials to discuss potential pathways for exiting receivership upon expiration of the renewed plan. So, and it sort of goes on from there, which is the most sort of concrete language, I've seen, and I think in response to our feedback and wanting there to be like some sort of clear timeline and a pathway forward. And again, for us as a board, in order to do that, our focus is then on, as we talked about, meeting the goals of the plan itself. But this one presents at least a timeline for when the commissioner and the receiver, us, will meet with city officials to discuss, a pathway for exiting receivership.
Okay, that's 2 years from now. So I guess part of my problem with this, like, I'm glad that there's some language in here around it, but again, I feel that this language is incredibly vague. Like, the district will exit receivership once gains are sufficient. What is that? What constitutes sufficient gains? Like, there's no qualitative or quantitative benchmark about that. And policies, practices, and structures have been institutionalized to ensure sustainable results. Which policies, which practices, which structures? I feel like this still leaves us, it leaves the community in general, and it leaves us as a board of the very difficult position of living in, like, murky uncertainty around what the path is, and, like, how do we go forward from here? And I just feel like I understand that the turnaround plan is more narrowly concerned with the with the performance of the schools, but I just feel like I'm not comfortable with this language. I feel that this needs to be more, it needs to be much more clearly articulated in terms of what the path is to get out.
Other thoughts, questions?
Well, if you look at the Appendix B with the measurable goals, that gives you a definitive benchmark as to where we should be during this plan or at the end of the plan, our targets. And that's near the back on page 49.
So are we saying that if we meet all of these goals in these specific areas, student attendance and dismissal rates, student safety and discipline, student promotion and dropout, graduation rates, MCAS achievement, and then, these other assessment system scores, these are the benchmarks that we have to meet?
As the chair of this board, that's my understanding of, again, what's in our control. It's here in terms of the areas, the measures. Like, obviously, we as a board or as individuals don't decide when receivership ends, but I'm entering this assuming that these are our goals, these are our targets. This is the work that we are, overseeing, quite literally with the district. And from my vantage point as the chair of this board, if we meet these goals, and that's what we've been charged to do, then that's absolutely a condition for exiting receivership. And I say that knowing that, again, neither I nor this board decides that, but that's the spirit in which I'm approaching this, where absolutely, here are the goals that are in front of us to meet. And again, I'll say one more time, my assumption is meeting these goals is a condition, for exiting receivership.
Is it both a necessary and a sufficient condition, or a necessary but not sufficient condition?
it's what's in my and our power and control, and I think it's sort of trying to get real clarity on what is it that we have to do to be considered for exit. And so this is, in my mind, and again, just want to be very transparent, the way I'm approaching this is it. This is in front of us. That, and to be even more blunt about it, that we meet these goals, like, I'll be the first one, working with this board to say, we met our goals, now what? Like, this is absolutely a part of what we're being held to help make a determination if, we transition out of receivership. So that's the spirit that that I'm approaching this. And I think also importantly, as was said earlier, like, our plan expired, and this plan is not like radically different from the framework we put in place, but it is updated to make sure that we're reflecting the actions that, that the district, and we expect the district to take. I also, would like us to approve this plan tonight because it helps set that 3-year period. Like, the longer we wait, this sets the 3-year period, and we formally state the goals. We know what the actions are. So that's, I'd probably say way more than you asked, but that's how I'm approaching this.
Okay. And we're agreed as a board that this, in terms of exiting receivership, this is the part that's in our control. Beyond that, it's DESE's decision.
It's the commissioner and the Board of Education, Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, correct. But this, again, as receiver, this is what is in our control, and I feel like it's in a clear articulation of what we have to do as a board to be able to say, we feel like we've met our responsibility and, achieved these areas. But then to be clear, then the decision of that is on the commissioner and the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Sorry. Is there a way for us, I feel like we need a way to sort of show accountability around this on some kind of basis, to the larger LPS community and to the community in general. So what is going to be our mechanism for reporting back and kind of publicizing? Like, I think, this is an important question for us, right? If we're saying as a board, this is what's within our control, these are the things that we're going to work hard on so that, even more importantly than exiting receivership, so that the schools can actually improve and students can do better, right? And these are clearly what our goals are on each of these. This is how we're meeting or falling short of those goals as a system. If we're falling short of them, here's the reasons why we think we're falling short on them. And if we're, meeting or exceeding them, great. But I think we need a kind of regular way to be talking about and discussing these goals with the wider school community as well.
Happy to respond. Sorry, I feel like it's a conversation you and I. But
I'm sorry.
No. I just, I agree. And in many ways, some of these data points we do report out on, like regularly. You see in here things about graduation, dropout, like early college. So we do report on the data. But I think what I'm hearing is, can we maybe be more explicit about, ensuring that all the data points that are in here, we are reporting on at some point during the year when it makes sense, because again, some data is available different times than others. But I'd be happy to work with the board to think about how we make sure that every single one of these measurable annual goals is reflected. And again, we do talk about a lot of them as part of our work, but if we need to make that more explicit, I think that's good feedback for the board.
Yeah, I think, we need to pay some attention to how we're having this conversation with the larger school community, right? Because I think that, I don't know whether teachers and parents, and to the extent, I don't know to what extent teachers and parents understand, that this is the part probably with that as a community that's within our control in terms of exiting receivership. Here's our targets, and what's our like collective strategies and responsibility as a school community towards achieving those, right? And I think there needs to be a way to clearly and transparently report on that and have open discussions, within, maybe it's within individual schools or at a district level, so that we're talking through that and soliciting, feedback and ideas around, what's going on. And I think that's also important because, one thing that was sort of striking me in terms of some of the feedback that we heard tonight during the public participation is it's unclear to me the extent to which the constraints and possible uses of the federal money that's flowed into the system over the last few years is understood by the larger school community, right? I'm not, you should just tell me to shut up if I'm talking out of turn. But we just sat through an executive session in which one of the things that we talked about is there are certain restrictions on a lot of that money that don't allow us to spend it on salaries, even though we might want to, even though we've discussed how we can do that. If we're not allowed to by the legislation, itself that's authorizing that money to flow to us in the first place, and there's only other things that we can spend it on, people need to know and understand that, right? Because otherwise we're creating a climate where it looks like, the school system is sitting on millions of dollars and just refusing to give it to the people who've worked the hardest to kind of hold things together over the last year. And I don't if that's not true, and we know that that's not true, and our hands are tied in terms of how most of that money can be used, people need to know and understand that, because then the fight is a larger fight at the legislative level to either to change the uses of some of that money or to figure out another path through that, right? But that's about being really good about communication and making sure that people understand what the constraints are that we're operating under in the case of a situation like that, or what's the goals and performance that we're trying to reach in the case of a situation like this. So.
Right. Other comments, Maria?
I was just wondering that, getting back to the turnaround plan, you know how we have curriculum and instruction as a standing agenda item? Could we have a monthly turnaround plan update with, not all the areas, but specific areas that we have data for? This way we're keeping on top of the turnaround plan and ensuring that we're meeting our targets, and if we're not, at that point brainstorm as to how we'll meet the targets necessary.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
I think that's a great idea.
Yep. Maria?
Yeah, I was gonna, I'm on board with what Pat just said also. This is a pretty long document, and it would be really helpful, I think, maybe to produce some sort of an executive summary that includes these goals and just summarizes what it's in here, so that it's just a lot friendlier to everybody else. And anytime maybe that, as part of the agenda item that Pat just suggested, any other proposal or project that we are discussing within our meetings, maybe always try to link it to these goals in terms of how are these projects supporting what we're trying to do here.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. It would be really useful as we're going through the budget process to tie things back to, this is the turnaround plan goal that this meets, right? Some things are super clear, like early college, it's a direct line, right? But other things might, you could, I think easily, and with most people's agreement, make the argument that, like, investing in social and emotional supports is going to help meet a lot of these different goals, and how and tying it in those ways. I think that will also help us make really important budget decisions.
Great.
And I think where, the document right now stands at about 56, 57 pages, we do need either an executive summary or some way to present this to the community at large. I don't know whether info sessions would be appropriate, or something on Zoom, where families and community members understand this turnaround plan and what our goal is. Ultimately, to meet our targets and to bring the district back to local control.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we could, even instead of like adding on extra events, like we should use some of the PTO meetings for a discussion around this. I think that would be an appropriate use of a PTO meeting time, or of the principals council, or other standing meetings that already exist.
It needs to be a living document that people understand.
And also, yes, agree with all those comments. And also, there is an executive summary that's 12 pages long. That's at the start of this.
Yeah.
And it does summarize, the 4 areas. It is translated and will be posted on the website in English and Spanish. However, I think the point I'm hearing is, even a 12-page version is not like engagement. That's, it's a shorter version, but we need to do work to, to ensure, I think you suggest that, our budget is a reflection of this, because this is our goal, right? Like, these are the goals for the district, so the budget, and crosswalking it and being very clear on how our budget items support turnaround plan goals is important. I think it does already, but just to make that even more explicit, and how we talk to the broader community in an ongoing way about progress towards, similar to what we're doing again on the curriculum side. But I think that makes a lot of sense. Pat, go ahead.
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I'm happy to entertain a motion to approve the turnaround plan.
Ventura, I want to be honest, I have not had a chance to read the whole thing before this meeting, and I don't feel prepared to vote on it. I know this is our, we're barely at quorum, but I would like to table the vote until the next meeting if we can.
Turn them out.
If we table it till the next meeting, could we come up with some strategies of presenting it to the community at large, like have a package?
Sure.
How we're going to do it?
Yeah.
And how we're going to demonstrate how we're meeting our benchmarks on a monthly basis.
Mm-hmm.
That could be attached, and we'd have a better understanding as a group.
Yeah, I would love to vote on this tonight, partly because it starts the clock in my mind.
I know.
However,
it's true.
However, I also don't want us to vote on something if we haven't read it, and I don't know. I know that's not the case for everyone, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to make sure that if we need to push it one more month, I think that's okay. I would prefer to start the clock and get this moving as soon as possible. However, I think I would be okay with waiting until our next meeting to vote on it. Potentially, Pat, with some ideas for engagement. So, the board's okay with that, then that's the direction I'll move in.
And we'll be ready to vote for it in January?
That'd be the plan. That we put it on the January agenda.
Now, how is our timeline with DESI with this?
We have a plan that has been extended, and that's legally allowed. However, I think that operating under a renewed turnaround plan is the best for everyone, including us, just so we're very clear. I think it's what it is. I think we need one more month, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Could we, Could we approve it with the contingencies attached to the motion?
It's not going to pass because I'm not going to vote.
Yeah, and here's what we're
Yes
going to
on
do. We're
it.
not going to vote. We're not going to vote and pass this
Yeah.
right now, 3-1.
Yeah.
We're gonna wait until January.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
wait until January. I fully commit to reading it over Christmas break, but it's been a very insane month, and I want to give it the full attention it deserves.
Yeah. So that's fine. We haven't. No one's put forward a motion, so I'm not gonna. We'll just move on to the next agenda item.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next agenda item is the half-day school calendar, December 22nd, and discussion and vote.
Sure, sorry, I'll add also, please note that we've edited the calendar to include the 22nd, and then we also added June 7th as the last day of school for seniors.
Do you want to say anything else, Superintendent, just about the genesis of this and why for the change for the half-day, not the last day of school?
Yeah, sure. So I think, we were just trying to adjust and make sure, given where we are with our school year, understanding that the school break is shorter than usual, and understanding that folks would definitely prefer to have a longer break, but also mindful that the school year is 180, not knowing how many snow days we would have and how hot it gets later on. So the compromise here was to do a half day for both the 22nd as well as the 23rd.
So I do have a question about this, and it's probably springing to mind because I'm like, good Lord, if ever there was a year in which people needed a longer break, it would be this year. Is there not some way that we can establish some more consistency around the time of the break? Because I feel like we kind of are at the mercy of what day of the week different holidays fall on. And that doesn't, it seems like it would be nice for families and for teachers to be able to have more consistency in knowing we're always going to have, at least a 10-day or at least a 12-day, whatever it is that we land on, instead of, kind of being at this mercy from year to year, especially, this year has just been so crazy.
I mean, honestly, when the superintendent approached me about this, I was like, can't we just send school at the beginning of the week? And obviously, we have a calendar. We could end school early that week, but then we got to make up the days. And I'm like, okay, that's too much.
And maybe there are
I think
300 parents at home who are cursing us out right now,
right.
right? So I don't know, because, people have to work too. But, but I would like to, I don't know if this is, I make a motion around this, but I would like us to consider setting a guaranteed amount of break time that would be consistent from year to year, that would allow for a sufficient break over this time.
Yeah, we're absolutely mindful that the breaks are necessary for everyone.
Yeah.
A few considerations for us to think about as we design the new school year, which will be very soon, actually. One is the start of the school year.
Yep.
So for us to do that, we should definitely consider, when do we start school? A few considerations around the start of the school year include the incredibly hot days that we still get end of August, beginning of September, so we are mindful about that. We did numbers this past summer. We had in excess of 14 days of 90 plus, and our buildings are quite old with no proper AC, and that's really does not support an earlier.
Which is why we need to build the new LAE school.
Yeah, that doesn't help and support, starting school any earlier so that we can then build it and then end it the other way. And then the other thing, as you just mentioned, is when the holidays actually fall in the calendar, being mindful that we have 180 days plus the snow days, it could almost push us till July the 1st. So that's the other challenge. We're happy to do that if that is the will of you all and we come into agreement with our partners at the union. But then we end up with starting as late as after Labor Day and ending close to July 1st. You see what I mean? And so that's also problematic on both ends. It's really tricky, but we should absolutely think the many scenarios that are possible to ensure a nice break for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with just voting on the half-day tonight, and then when we start to talk about the new school year, like, again, that's another thing in my mind that it would be nice to get some feedback from parents and teachers on, like, you know, given that there are trade-offs that you just outlined, what do the majority of people prefer, right? Are they okay with going a little bit later in June if it means that we can have a consistently longer winter break or so on?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So we're voting only on the calendar change for this year. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, so that passes. Thank you. All right, and then the last item which we are voting on today is the superintendent evaluation for, just to be clear, it's for the last school year. So when we started the evaluation cycle, we started it around this time last year and designed it so that it would conclude pretty much in August, September to align. We're trying to get to the school year sort of alignment. The process included the superintendent laying out her goals to the board, which we approved, and then also giving us an update midstream, and then sharing some updates just as we entered the August-September school year. From there, board members provided feedback in written form, and sometimes it was in communication as well, that I then took and tried to compile into one document that reflected just the different perspectives, feedback that the board members provided, so that we have one document that would be going to the superintendent. So at a high level, you know, when you look at the evaluations, they have 4 standards for performance, and those are instructional leadership, management and operations, family and community engagement, and professional culture. And so the board, you know, rates each of those areas, everything from unsatisfactory, needs improvement, proficient, exemplary, for all 4 areas. And then there are also comments in here as well. And so the board has had the final evaluation, and I know I've had a chance to look at it, but I'm saying it more for the benefit of the public. You know, overall, it is a proficient evaluation, and what that means is that the feedback from the board was that under some of the areas, instructional leadership, management and operations, the superintendent was given a proficient rating. That's not to say that there isn't both sort of positive and constructive feedback, and I've had a chance to share this with the superintendent. She's had a chance to review, but sort of at a high level, you know, I think first of all, it's been and has continued to be a pretty challenging year, the last couple of years at this point. But, you know, comments in the evaluation, you know, talk about, you know, sort of managing just the complexity, and especially during times of COVID, trying to create additional ways for stakeholder input and feedback. I think importantly, putting in systems, when we think about sort of the longer term sustainability, putting in systems in place, under autonomy framework that we've been designing, a renewed turnaround plan that ultimately are about, again, addressing the systems that will remain, you know, in the district and help it to achieve its goals. Some of the areas of growth, and I think, you know, we say this is the superintendent's evaluation, but it's also about then, it's her leadership, but also like just the direction of the district, you know. I think one of the other structures that was put in place, which is a positive, is a school quality reviews. So we have a way now of looking at our schools, not just in terms of test scores, but these different dimensions, right, of schools. And I think that process is being called out as something that's really, really important. I think, you know, a process like that also gives us new data. And when we look at it, you know, pedagogy is an area of focus for 21 of 29 schools. And basically saying that, you know, while there's an instructional vision, and I think evidence of that sort of at the district level, just making sure that that instructional vision is really driving the work in schools consistently. And so as an area of constructive feedback to the superintendent, it's, great that we have these reviews, we have this data now to see, and then just making sure that we're doubling down on working with the schools, teachers, to really ensure that just the instructional vision is clear, understood, and being implemented in schools, not in a top-down way, but like really continuing to be, how teachers and principals make sense of it, and just have a clear focus on teaching and learning. So obviously there's a lot in that in terms of the supports that we as a district provide, but just to share sort of one of the areas, of feedback. I think another, just at a high level, is that, again, especially during COVID, there's so many things that the district did under the superintendent's leadership to try to connect with families. We talked about the family experience questionnaires, getting 5,000 responses. I remember this board, being really blown away by just the level of, outreach that was being done to families. And there are many, many examples in here of, through Wills Council, parent training workshops. So a lot's been done already. And then I think, reflected in some of this is we did hear feedback and have heard feedback that not all stakeholders, including some city elected officials, parents, community partners, feel like they have accessibility to the superintendent and the district. And so one of the areas of, I think, constructive feedback is we made a lot of progress, I think, and clearly demonstrating outreach, and it's just an area that we got to continue, and just in terms of the DNA of everything we do, how we get feedback about, things we do, and then just being, again, continuing to be accessible to stakeholders so that they know that if they have constructive ideas or things that they, want to make the district stronger, that there's a way that they can share those. So just trying to summarize at a high level, like I said, at the end of the day, it is proficient, and there are a lot of strengths in here that we try to capture to recognize the work of the superintendent, leading through, again, I think your entire tenure has been pretty extraordinary times. It's not been, in any way what probably any of us imagined it would be. I mean, it's been almost like crisis after crisis, and I think this evaluation also tries to communicate just the appreciation of the board in terms of your management and leadership, during some really challenging times. And so I don't want that to get lost in here. I'm sharing all the constructive as well, but I don't want to get lost, again, the work that you've been doing to lead us. And there is no script for this. There is no script for how to lead during these challenging times. But I think that, what you've done to still center teaching and learning and to keep, ensuring that our schools have data about how they're doing and how they can improve. I mean, that's the work that will continue to make us stronger and better able to serve our kids. So, want to thank you, for all the work you're doing. And like I said, it's a proficient, evaluation, I think, to reflect your performance. And as always, with everyone and everything here, like, there's stuff we can do to get better. And that's really the spirit that, this is being offered in. So I'll pause there and see if there are any questions, comments from board members.
No, I would just echo that, I think that this has been a tremendously difficult time, and I would not do your job for twice the money that you get paid. And I think there's always things to work on, and, there's lots of stuff that we've had our disagreements or discussions about, but I do think you've done, an extraordinary job under very trying circumstances, and we appreciate you a lot.
Yes, and to echo Jess, this has been a strange ride from day one. From the extensive heat to the gas crisis to COVID. We've had our ups and downs, and I really believe you've managed the district very, very well. What I appreciate is the school quality reviews and your insight and having them do those reviews. It really helps when it comes time to look at how the students are progressing and how the schools are progressing. So I really think that's an important aspect that kind of informs us as to how we're doing grassroots. And it'll tie in very nicely with the turnaround plan. So I want to thank you for everything that you've done.
I'll just say that, as a new board member, I wasn't part of this round, but I do acknowledge that there's no playbook to do this work, and we're here to support you, and thank you.
Great. So I actually do need a formal vote of the board to accept the evaluation as written, and then that allows me to finalize it with the superintendent and, any next steps. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I feel like, do I need to abstain because I wasn't part of it, or?
You can vote. I mean, you saw the document, you can vote,
Okay, that's fine, I'll vote then.
Okay. So is that a positive vote, or? Okay, so 4. Okay. All right, thank you.
I agree with it.
All right, thank you. All right, and then the last item on the agenda is the November 10th, 2021 regular session minutes. We have executive session minutes, which I think there's you're waiting on me, I think, Maria, to get, yeah. So this is just the regular session. We'll get you the executive session at the next meeting. Do you have a motion to approve the November 10th minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Okay, we are at the end of our meeting. So thank you all for coming tonight. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved with the Merry Christmas.
Yeah. Do you have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you very much. Our next meeting is Wednesday, January 12th, 2022.